Well, the Prime Minister is today announcing a $4 billion remote housing package for the Northern Territory, aimed at building hundreds of homes in Indigenous communities over the coming decade. The 10-year agreement has been struck between the federal and territory governments, all 4 land councils and the NT's peak remote housing body. Dr. Josie Douglas is with the Central Land Council and she joins me now from Alice Springs. Hi Josie, thanks very much for your time.
Good morning, good to be with you.
Josie, overcrowding is a huge problem that's well documented in the Northern Territory and in those regional areas. Can you just paint a picture, before we go into this announcement, of the current state of Indigenous housing in the Northern Territory?
The state of housing in remote communities in the Northern Territory is a dire situation. Overcrowding is extreme, and this announcement is most welcome. People are living in dilapidated houses that are decades old, and some houses are beyond economic repair, and most houses are in need of upgrades.
So, Josie, what do you make of this announcement, the target? 270 houses annually. It's a 10-year agreement, $4 billion. Fed funds is around half of that. $844 million of that is new money. Is it ambitious, overly ambitious, or achievable?
It's certainly a welcome funding boost. We know that the previous agreement was $1.5 billion over 5 years, and this contributed to reducing overcrowding by 4.4%. Overcrowding in the Northern Territory is at 54%. This means that more than half of houses, remote houses in the Northern Territory, are overcrowded. So this funding boost of $4 billion over 10 years is a very welcome announcement, and it will have positive flow-on effects in terms of accredited training, employment, and pathways for employment in the housing sector.
Josie, just on delivery of the project, we know the partnership agreement is set up between both the Territory and federal governments, Aboriginal Housing Northern Territory and First Nations Housing Body and the Land Council. What will your involvement be in this partnership and rolling it out?
Well, Central Land Council is a member of the Joint Steering Committee of the National Partnership Agreement, and our role will continue. We very much look forward to working with the Australian Government, the Northern Territory Government, the other land councils, and the Aboriginal Housing Northern Territory, the peak body for housing in the NT. Our role will continue, and we're also looking forward to negotiating a tripartite agreement that will sit over the funding agreement between the two governments to achieve a partnership approach to housing in the Northern Territory that's in line with the Closing the Gap for priority reform areas.
You mentioned the Closing the Gap there. The report that was handed down in February, only 4 of the 19 goals were on track, 4 were going backwards. Do you think $4 billion is enough to close the gap with respect to housing?
Well, it will certainly provide an opportunity to a significant contribution to achieving the Closing the Gap target of 18% in terms of overcrowding. This funding boost is a significant commitment, and we very much look forward to getting the next 10 years on track and getting new houses and housing repairs and maintenance achieved and done.
Where do you expect the major challenges to come from in rolling this out, Josie?
Well, the major challenges are always, in terms of the Northern Territory, we're a small jurisdiction, and delivery of services to remote communities is always a challenge. But I'm sure that together, working in partnership, we'll be able to achieve what is needed for remote communities in the Northern Territory.
You touched on the opportunities that it presents in those wraparound services. What do you see as some of these specific employment opportunities and skills development opportunities that this could bring?
We know that there is a distinct lack of jobs in remote communities. and we anticipate that the contracts and procurement will include targets for Aboriginal employment outcomes. We anticipate and expect that there be accredited training that comes with this 10-year funding boost. And it's much needed employment opportunities for Aboriginal people in remote communities. Of course, one of the challenges is the availability of training providers, and this is a well-known fact. And of course, we need governments putting their heads together to work out solutions to the challenges that we know already exist. And we know that employment outcomes are achieved when you have regular, ongoing cyclical repairs and maintenance. That's where you get the real boost in employment and the real gains in employment. And of course, this has flow-on positive effects for families in remote communities, where children can get a good night's sleep, can get up refreshed and ready for school, where there's employment opportunities for young people, for middle-aged people. It will have a real positive impact on the fabric of remote community life.
Dr. Josie Douglas, General Manager of the Central Land Council, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.